could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It is the last late night coffee talk of 2022, and I'm excited that I'm going to be able to take this break, share a cup of coffee with everyone. This is, I think we're going to have a nice little trip down memory lane, plus a little bit of a look ahead. And I want to make something very clear because I've already been asked. No, this is not replacing our sort of year-end, year kickoff wrap-up that we do in the T&M every year. It's become an annual tradition. Even before video live streaming, we were actually doing like a live audio thing, right? Like a radio program. So we're still working on that. You guys will see the event pop, and you know, you know what to do, right? But we'll have some special guests. It'll be on a different night at a different time. So just watch your email inboxes for that. We'll keep you posted. All right, man, we got a lot to get to tonight. I've got all the screens rocking. I think we're going to be ready to go. And before we kick off, let me go ahead for those of you that are brand new. My name is Daniel Miller, and I'm president of the Texas Nationalist movement. And this is that time of the week where I take a break from what I'm doing and grab a cup of coffee and share that time with you. Decompress a little bit, let you decompress a little bit, and let you pepper me with questions, right? And hopefully, time permitting, I'll be able to answer them all. But it's going to be a good one, right? We're right here at the end of 2022, so we're going to have a phenomenal kind of recap on everything. I got to get this microphone right. I am still not used to this thing. Hopefully, after all those complaints we got about sound, hopefully the sound is much better now. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way before we get started in earnest. A reminder, if you would like to submit a question, you can email it right down there. There's that email address, coffeetalk@thetnm.org, or you can drop it in chat on the YouTube channel or on the TNM's Facebook page. Additionally, we are streaming tonight on LinkedIn, and I do believe we're back on some of the other apps tonight as well. So I had, worked out the tech on that finally, and I think we're squared away. So you'll be able to see this archived in the TNM app, in the TNM TV, although we're not live on TNM TV tonight. We are, I do believe, live in the Roku app. So, you take what you can get. Platform switches are always difficult. But drop your questions in the chat. Sound off, right? Tons and tons of TNMers you're going to find in any of those spots, right? If you're watching on the YouTube channel, understand there are people also watching on Facebook. And if you're watching on either of those, understand people are watching on Twitter. If you're watching on any of those, understand people are watching on their Roku. So, I mean, it's just, I know we're scattered out a bit, but wherever you are, whatever platform you're watching on, jump into the comments or the chat and visit with folks. And, I wish we could get it set up to where Twitter users could participate in the chat. It'd be nice. But if you're watching on Twitter and want to participate in chat, just head over to the YouTube channel, right? There should be a YouTube link somewhere over the TNM's YouTube channel and jump in the chat. And of course, on YouTube chat, Super Chat is active. And I want to thank you to everyone who, since we were able to do that, who comes in, drops some coin in there to help us keep getting the message out. We really do appreciate your contributions. And whether it's in Super Chat or whether it's on the TNM website at tnm.me/donate, it is very much appreciated. The ramp up for the TEXIT campaign this legislative session is already getting super expensive. So I would just encourage you, if you have not already, head over to tnm.me/donate or drop a Super Chat. Prefer the donate link because, these guys take a big chunk. It's one of the things people ask all the time. Why don't you take contributions on the TNM mobile app, or why don't you have the TNM store on there? And it's because that by the time everything is said and done, either Google or Apple are taking 40% or more. In some instances, by the time you start whopper chopping all of their fees and everything else out, they're taking about 60% plus. So, yeah, I know it would be convenient, but do you really, is that really what you want to do? Do you want it to all go to helping make Texas independence happen, or funding tech oligarchs and tech giants? I am appreciative of the fact that they do provide us a platform to do this, but, they can monetize other ways, right? All right. I'm already seeing a lot of chat and things going on. So let us kick off. Look, I want to talk about kind of the year that was 2022, and it was interesting because Kara and I as we were sitting down to talk about this and kind of work it through, which, by the way, we had a pretty lengthy conversation yesterday. I know you guys were expecting coffee talk last night, but it just didn't happen, right? Yesterday was crazy busy. But as we were talking about this, I'm like, what all happened? I wanted to pick our brain. What all happened in 2022? And she looked at me like I was nuts, like I was absolutely insane, right? Because when you really stop to think about it, 2022 is probably going to go down as one of the most pivotal years in the TEXIT movement, right? In the TNM specifically, but definitely in the TEXIT movement overall. There were, just a massive amount of very important things that happened that moved the ball down the field, that moved us toward getting Texas independence done, right? Everything happens in steps. Nothing happens just immediately overnight. And everything is measured in progress toward the goal. And 2022 gave us a lot of push toward the goal. Just amazing things happened. And so, I got to thinking about it. Now, we talked about this before. Our video team lead, Will Casey, you guys know Will. You've been seeing the videos, hopefully, on our YouTube channel about this month and at the TNM. Will did one for December that was essentially a bit of a consolidated recap. And if you'll indulge me, Will did such a great job on it. I want to play that first to set the tone for what we're doing. And it's a few minutes long, so you guys bear with me. But we're going to go through that. I'm going to play it for you. Then we're going to unpack it. And we're going to talk about out of that, what happened that might be missing. We're going to put some of those things in context. And of course, I'm going to get an opportunity to process your questions. So be sure to send your questions, coffeetalk@thetnm.org, or drop them in chat. And here's Will Casey reminding us of what happened in 2022.
Welcome back to another edition of This Month at the TNM. Well, we've come to the end of another year, and what a year it was. Today we're going to look back at 2022. It was an eventful year for the world at large, and especially for the TNM. Your organization, meaning you all, were busy, and we have a lot to show for your efforts. Let's start with the obvious. It was a midterm election year. There were 4 main candidates for governor in the Republican primary. The incumbent governor, Greg Abbott, Chad Prather, a conservative online comedian and commentator who decided to run for governor because, in his words, enough is enough. Don Huffines was a state senator from 2015 to 2019 and feels those in political office in D.C. in Austin have failed Texans repeatedly, and that Texans deserve leaders who will deliver results instead of excuses and lies. Alan West has served in elected office in Florida and Texas, is a conservative who is formerly the state GOP chairman. One of these candidates was not like the other 3. All these candidates, except Greg Abbott, came out in support of your right to vote on whether Texas should, as Sam Houston said, once again raise its head and stand among the nations.
This is a yes or no question, so quickly we'll just go through each one of you. We'll start with you, Mr. Huffines. Yes or no, do you support a referendum on the ballot that says, quote, the state of Texas shall reassert its status as an independent nation?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yeah, I like that.
Mr. Prather.
Yes.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Unfortunately, once the primary election results were in, Greg Abbott continued the tradition that's been true since 1978, where the incumbent is reelected in the primary. There was another office that was of particular interest to TNM members. Our own Daniel Miller was on the slate of candidates for lieutenant governor. While Daniel was able to fight the good fight, and the exposure he got for being a candidate for what some say is the most powerful office in the state got our message out to many, he wasn't able to topple the machine that is the Dan Patrick campaign. He did come in second, but wasn't able to drag the incumbent under the 50% required to force the race into a runoff. What I would have given to see Daniel and Dan Patrick on a debate stage together. Another thing 3 of the 4 governor candidates had in common is that they signed on to the Texas First pledge that was created by your organization. As of today, there are more than 110 candidates and elected office holders that have signed the pledge. This pledge is a solemn oath to put the interest of Texas and Texans ahead of anything else, and is a fixed set of principles that guide every action that the candidate or office holders swears to uphold. This includes sections on putting Texas first, inherent and inalienable rights, Texas sovereignty and independence, cultural and economic independence, as well as improving government transparency and accountability. You can read the pledge at taketexasback.com. This year we also had a great showing at the Republican Party of Texas convention in Houston. The T&M was very involved in all aspects of the process, starting with the temporary committees, all the way through finalization of the official platform. In an unprecedented turn of events, we were able to get not 1, but 2 planks dealing with state sovereignty on the platform, one from the Constitutional Issues Committee and the other from the State Affairs Committee. This great accomplishment is due to your efforts. T&M members not only volunteered for key positions on the committees themselves, but also showed up in support of the planks, offering testimony multiple times throughout the process. Your blue shirts were also highly visible throughout the convention, and we received a lot of positive feedback, and even recruited hearts and minds to the effort.
What's it time for?
Right after the big win at the Texas GOP convention, we came home to find out that SurveyUSA had just released the results of a bombshell poll supporting exactly what we know to be true. We want to be the Republic of Texas again. This survey was conducted in 8 states, including Texas. Support for exiting the Union polled highest in Texas, of course. The poll showed that 69% of Texan voters want a referendum on Texas independence. Breaking it down, it shows that the support for Texas independence exceeds the halfway mark in every political party, with Texas Democrats at 52%, Texas Independents at 53%, and Texas Republicans coming in at a whopping 74%. Daniel has always maintained that he knows when Texas independence is on the ballot, it passes not by a little, but by a lot. You don't have to be psychic to see that Texans are ready to reclaim their status as an independent nation again. 2022 also saw a big fundraising event called the Catalyst Campaign. Our work for Texas independence is very much a people-powered effort, and this campaign, the largest in our organization's history, was a big help on moving us closer to our goals. We'll have more information on the results of this remarkable campaign in upcoming programs. We're seeing an interesting trend happening around the state these days. In October, Edwards County called on the state legislature to put a secession question on the 2023 general election ballot. They passed this resolution highlighting the abundance of grievances, ones we're very familiar with, against the federal government, including the national debt, usurpation of states' rights, restrictions on private industry, curbs on the Second Amendment, and failures to enforce immigration laws, among others. The resolution was signed by several county commissioners as well as the Edwards County judge. It's great to see more and more entities coming around and putting pressure on elected officials to do the right thing and let the people have a vote on this critical issue. It's nothing new to hear that social media sites are censoring people who have viewpoints they don't agree with. Just about all the major players in this industry are famous for completely tossing the idea of free speech enshrined in the U.S. Constitution. It's gotten so bad that the TNM has just filed a class action lawsuit against Facebook for declaring our organization to be dangerous or harmful. We've had it with that kind of abuse from big tech. This year, we developed our own social media application called TNM Social. This is the result of many long hours of work and testing by some pretty talented people. The app's available both on the TNM website as well as through a mobile app for both Android and iPhone users. It's a great way to both connect with other members as well as to keep up on current events in the TEXIT movement. Well, that's a look at where we've been this past year. Next year is already shaping up to be our most remarkable one yet. In the coming months, we'll take a look at the upcoming session of the Texas Legislature, as well as some pretty exciting projects and events that are in the works. We'll see you next month in 2023.
You know, it's hard to think that 2023 is only, a few days away. But we've been, I guess maybe part of the challenge of why I had to ask what all happened in 2022 is much like many of you, my eyes are set firmly on the goal ahead. And of course, that goal is to get the TEXIT bill passed and give Texans an opportunity to vote on the question in November of 2023 to answer the question, should the state of Texas reassert its status as an independent nation? But, just before we start talking about taking a look ahead, I want to thank Will Casey for the work that he's done on these videos as he prepares them. Normally, they are shown at TNM meetups, right? So if you are in Texas and are looking for a place to connect with other TNM supporters, I would encourage you to head over to tnm.me/events, find a local meetup, or go to tnm.me/local groups. Find a local meetup, find a local group, get plugged in, because that's frankly what it's going to take, right? I mean, all of the things that happened in 2022, which were earth-shattering, and we'll unpack a lot of those here in a minute. They only move us closer to the goal if we continue to push and we keep up the momentum. We have to, as individuals, as supporters of TEXIT, we've got to engage. We've got to be a part of the process. That's not just me. That's not just Will. That's not just people in the national leadership team. That means you, right? This only happens if you make it happen. We can do all of these things. We can want it for you. We can want it for ourselves. We can work, 20 plus hours a day individually. But at the end of the day, if you don't get engaged and get in the game and become a participant in this fight, all of that progress slows down to a halt, right? But I know that's not where you're at. Because were it not for you, these things that you just watched would not have happened, right? I mean, it's really you that is making this happen. Sure, all of us here in leadership, we help kind of shape it and direct it and implement the strategy, and we move this toward the mission. But ultimately, you guys are the fuel. You guys are the ones. You're the horsepower. And I know that some of you are going to think I'm sounding redundant, but Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution is abundantly clear. All political power is inherent in the people. And at the risk of sounding like a broken record, you are the people, right? You have the political power. You can make this a reality. I mean, look at what you did, over 2022. I mean, when Will was talking about all of these, he started off talking about the election, right? And I, it was almost easy for me to forget that we literally spent the first 2 months and some odd days, really 2 months of this year, still on the campaign trail, still out there, fighting for you, right? I was personally on the campaign trail. Got to set a leadership example, right? But so many folks were out there, and amazingly, and I'm gonna share this on the screen with you guys because I want to just show you the impact, right? This was something that absolutely floored mainstream media, right? And I refer back to Dave Lieber at the Dallas Morning News when he came across this, right? Not for us not promoting it or being out there with it, but it really shocked him, right? You go over here to taketexasback.com and you look at pledged candidates, and what do you see? You see massive numbers, right? I mean, you have to remember, and Will talked about what was in that Texas First Pledge. And what do you see? You see known candidates for general land office. You saw candidates for governor, all the major candidates on the Republican ticket for governor, all the real major candidates for general land office. You had James White, commissioner of literally every candidate for commissioner of agriculture, including James White, who at the time was a sitting state representative, right? Chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. Alan West, who was a former congressman who became chairman of the Texas GOP, signed it. Dr. Spires over here, who was running for general land office. I mean, go look at that guy's CV. On and on and on. Candidates for railroad commissioner. And then here, the sitting agriculture commissioner, Sid Miller, who is now currently still your ag commissioner, signed the pledge, right? Your current vice chair of the state Republican Party signed it. Legislative candidates, an entire flight of legislative candidates. By the time it was all said and done, both at the statewide plus the district level plus down to the local level, with county candidates and local candidates, there were well over 100 candidates who ultimately signed the Texas First Pledge. And the key component of that is supporting a vote on Texas independence, letting the people decide, upholding Article 1, Section 2. And it represented a bit of a freak out moment for the political establishment, as well as for the mainstream media, who have done everything they possibly can to pretend like TEXIT is not happening right under their noses, right? So, it was huge. And that's how we kicked off the year. We left right out of that to go speak at a conference in New Hampshire. Karen and I actually had to, 2 days after the election, had to get on a plane and go sit on a panel with other independence movements from around the U.S., right? In New Hampshire, whose representatives actually, because of their process, the way their procedure works, were able to debate a bill calling for putting their independence to a vote on the floor of their house. I mean, these things are happening everywhere, and only a fool denies that it's taking place. And I got to tell you that there are a lot of fools out there. They don't think that this is happening, but it's happening right under their noses. And then, of course, we go right out of that with just a little bit of time left, right? Just a short amount of time, and boom. We go into the largest political convention in the world, and we see almost 90% of the delegates put not one, but two planks on their platform calling for a TEXIT vote. One that's not date certain, right? They didn't call for it on a particular date, just a standing call. But the other insisted 2023. We want the legislature to pass it. I mean, that's huge, folks. You have to remember, it was not too many years ago where we had a similar vote for a similar plank stolen from us on the floor of that same convention. But why it passed is no surprise, because right on the heels of that, you've got the SurveyUSA poll that's showing 66% of likely voters, or as Will talked on there, 74% of Republican voters, right, ready to see this on a ballot so they can vote on it. I mean, only a fool would deny that this is happening. Only a fool, or someone in very, very deep denial. So what a phenomenal year. And that was literally just the first half. The back half had been spent with wonderful progress, right? Where we had an explosion of the formation of local groups, right? We went from having almost just very few local groups to, dozens upon dozens upon dozens. And it's still growing. There's still local groups being formed, local coordinators being trained right now, forming up those groups so they can organize volunteers and go out and do amazing things and connect with Texas voters. And then, of course, we slide into October. And what happens in October? We find out that social media giant Facebook is putting a muzzle on TEXIT supporters. And what did we do? Well, we didn't do like a lot of other people and whine and wring our hands and do all that. What did we do? Well, we got a lawyer who fights these things, and we filed a class action lawsuit to bring them to heel, to say that, you may get away with that crap in California or New York, but you're not going to censor us here in Texas. We got a law on the books that prevents that from happening. A critical step that we had to take as we got ready for 2023 in the legislative session. Because the time to fight that battle is not in 2023, when we need to be building support, we need to be connecting with voters, or after the referendum bill has passed and we're trying to get voters out to make sure that we've got enough to beat the algorithm, if you know what I mean. So, this has been one major eventful year. Edwards County and the county resolution, right, calling for a TEXIT vote, and the fact that it's being discussed and debated and introduced in other counties. It's happening. TEXIT is evident. If you don't think it is, go look at the weeping and gnashing of teeth by weirdo pro-federal butt kissers on social media right now. Go look, if you're on Twitter, go follow me or the TNM on Twitter and look at how the opposition is in full-blown meltdown. Do you think they would be in a meltdown over what we're doing if we weren't making any progress? If we weren't getting closer and closer to the day that you and I will be able to walk into a voting booth and answer the question, should the state of Texas reassert its status as an independent nation? Would they be in full meltdown if they didn't anticipate that the answer to that question was going to be yes, that the people of Texas were going to decide that Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation to lift its head and stand among the nations? Absolutely not. So, 2022, wow. I mean, we were able to, just in the last few weeks, you can go right now to the website, go to tnm.me, and you'll get a pop-up, and it'll tell you to enter your information in, and we're going to email you the draft copy of the TEXIT legislation, the bill that needs to be filed and passed through both houses of the legislature, that will give you a vote on this issue in November 2023. And I can't do it by myself, no matter how persuasive people think I am. What persuades politicians What persuades these people is mass public support. The louder you are, the more of you that are talking about this, the more of you that are demanding this, the higher the probability they will do what you ask. It just takes a lot. And I know this because this is how we've had to proceed with just about every other piece of legislation that we've ever pushed through or attempted to push through. And we've seen it happen time and time again with things like constitutional carry, that the first session that it was introduced, it was dead on arrival. But constitutional carry advocates continued over and over and over and over and over to grow and get loud and organize, and boom. I'm not going to call what we got constitutional carry, but it's close, right? That's how you make a change. You know, it wasn't too long ago that I had Dr. Matt Quartrop on here, the professor from Coventry University and Australian National University, foremost expert on self-determination and independence referenda. If you haven't seen that webinar, go back in the YouTube archives and watch it. But it wasn't too long ago that I had him on here. And he essentially said everything that we have been saying. We have all the components to be a successful mass political movement. All the components are there. We've made tremendous progress throughout our time, throughout our history. The thing that gets us to the goal, the thing that pushes this across the line, is for it to be a disciplined, very active, very loud political movement for everyone to get in the game. That's what it's going to take. And so, I sit here at the tail end of 2022, realizing that all of the pieces are there. Everything that needs to happen is happening. All of the personnel that we need are there. There are some things that we could probably shore up a little bit. We need more volunteers in the field doing supporter ID, connecting with voters, right? Getting them connected to the TNM. We need that. We need that faster than ever. We need everyone engaged in that process by going to the website, going to tnm.me/outreach, and connecting with voters, filling out, printing out the forms, just like we did during the petition campaign, and connecting with voters and say, would you support a vote on Texas independence, and getting them to sign on the line, which is dotted, and then getting it into our system and getting them connected to us so we can then communicate and direct them. So that when we spin up phones or visits to the Capitol, we're not sending 1,000 people to a legislator. We're sending 5,000 or 10,000 people to a specific legislator. And we're doing that 100 times over, all across the House and the Senate. That, my friends, is how we win. And so I am just as proud as I could possibly be of every one of you that have been engaged and gotten in the game, that participated in some shape, form, or fashion in 2022 to help make this possible. Some of these things, many of them were planned, but some of them were just opportunities. The Edwards County resolution happened because a supporter that is in Edwards County on the county commissioner's court said, look, I want to do this. I want to make this happen. We found out about it after the fact. After it was done, it was like, this is what we did, right? So, the fact of the matter is that with initiative or plugging into our systems or working with the tools that we provide and working with us in a structured, disciplined manner, we can direct all of it. We can make this happen. 2023 can be our year, and 2022 was the perfect setup. Look, 2022 wouldn't have happened had it not been for 2021. And 2021 wouldn't have happened had it not been for 2020, right? And this is, my friends, the true definition of progress. Every single year we build off the successes of the previous year. And were those not there, there would be no movement. There would be no success. We'd be mired down, bogged down. And it's amazing to me. Can you imagine that there are still people out there who think that this thing's not happening? that we're not working, that we're not making things happen, that we're not moving closer to Texas. I get it. Some people are impatient, right? They're the people that put the popcorn in the microwave, and they hit the popcorn button and they try to pull it out about a minute early, and they're eating mostly kernels, right? I mean, that's those people. But if anyone thinks that we are not moving and progressing toward the goal, they're just nuts. I would like it to happen faster too, but that happens only when people get involved in mass numbers. It's just there are tons involved now, but how you compress time frames is you create a mass. Mass has gravity, political gravity. And that's how you compress time frames. I was approached at a rally once on the south steps of the Capitol, and I was asked, well, how soon is this going to happen? And I said, well, how long are you going to let it? How long are you going to let it stay as is until you are serious enough to help make it happen, right? So getting in the game, that is a huge thing. Speaking of, let me do this too. If I would suggest if you want to be a part of that solution in 2023, head over to tnm.me/volunteer and volunteer today. Become a member of the group, the organization, the new Texian army that's making TEXIT happen. It can happen. It can happen. It is happening. It will happen. But it happens faster the more hands on deck we have. All right. So let's get down to some questions because I've gotten some in via email and I've gotten some in. Hang on, let me just take this real quick. Yep, gotten some in via email, some in chat. And by the way, if you're just joining us, I would encourage you, if you want your question answered, drop it via email to coffeetalk@vtnm.org. You'll be able to see that email address at the bottom of the screen on the crawler, or drop it in chat on the YouTube channel or in the Facebook comments. I don't know if LinkedIn comments feed over here. Something I do not know yet, but something we will definitely try to find out. Okay. Let's get to some questions. This is, first off, a big thank you. Thank you to Eric Riddle for your super chat. We really, really do appreciate that. Thank you. All right, man, we got some great ones tonight, man. You guys are tearing it up. This is going to be fun. Okay, let's try this one. Danny asks, after TEXIT, Texans that are serving in the military Texans that are serving the U.S. military, will Texas pull its troops out from South Korea, Middle East, and from Europe, and from as well Africa? Look, that's a question that I don't really know. I'm not a prognosticator, right? I'm very clear that I don't look into a crystal ball to see how that thing goes, because ultimately it won't be me making the decision. But your question does highlight something that is kind of interesting, and you guys can find answers to a lot of these questions if you go to texitnow.org. But the one thing to remember is that TEXIT is not an act, it's a process. Okay, so day one after a TEXIT referendum, nothing immediate happens, right? Nothing changes on that next day. Nothing changes until we work to change it, till we go to make it happen. So, when we start talking about post-TEXIT defense policy, you begin to think about things like, will Texas forge a path on its own, or will it engage in a mutual defense compact with the United States? And what are the boundaries of that mutual defense compact? The fact of the matter is Texas will indeed have mutual national security concerns with what's left of the United States, plus many other countries in the Western Hemisphere. There's actually a multilateral agreement for the Western Hemisphere that deals with military and mutual assistance. It's I think a bit of an outcropping of the OAS now, but the fact of the matter is that those sorts of things already exist. Maybe not tight to the same degree as NATO, maybe. But ultimately, as we begin that negotiation process, part of that you have to contend with is that, is there going to be a mutual defense pact? And if so, what the scope of that is? What would our obligations be? What would the U.S. obligations be? And before people think, well, that'll never happen, I would just, again, reference you to the webinar from Dr. Quartrup, who basically confirmed everything that I said. And continues to do so. When people say that can't happen or won't happen, that's just because you don't understand the last 75 years of history around the world when it comes to independence and self-determination. So, but even if you had some apprehension about that, it is no excuse to sit idly by and accept the status quo. Truth. But thank you for your question. All right, here's one from YouTube. El Scorpio Perfecto asks, how has the UK court on Scottish independence affected the TEXIT movement? It hasn't at all. UK Supreme Court has really no particular say in what we do, other than we've been watching it, right? We very closely watched the Scottish independence referendum in 2014, the lead up to it, just like we did the lead up to Brexit. And it's I think it's an interesting question about whether or not the UK Supreme Court ruled properly on that issue. I still feel that you're going to wind up seeing the SNP and other elements in the Scottish government push for a referendum. Right, whether it's a recognized referendum or not, I think I really suspect that they're going to go ahead and push for one, just if nothing more than to create a great degree of political pressure on the issue. And what I think is interesting, something that we're seeing now that we didn't necessarily see in 2014 or the lead up to that referendum in 2014. Is growing sentiment among people in England saying, let them go, right? If that's what they want to do, let them go. It's all very interesting. We watch these things like a hawk to see what sort of information we can mine from them, right? And things that we can glean, lessons that we can learn. But ultimately, there's really been no particular effect from what the UK Supreme Court said. As far as what we're doing. Lauren wants to know, is there a Venmo where we can just send money whenever? No, I'd go through the donate page. That would be my recommendation. That's what you're going to want to do. tnm.me/donate. But thank you for the sentiment. I appreciate that. Okay. H, I don't know if that's Al or AI. I don't know. Maybe we could try Al or I don't know. I don't know what it means. But the question is, what happened with the TNM resolution in Congress? There has been no resolution in the U.S. Congress. If you're asking about the bill, the Texas Independence Referendum Act, legislative session hasn't started yet, right? So if you'll recall, there was a bit of a process. And I would recommend if you guys don't understand the bill process here in Texas, go to the TNM website. You have to be a registered supporter over there, but it gives you access to what we call the TNM Academy. It's a whole series of courses, more being added all the time. But there's one there in the Texas Civics section called How a Bill Becomes Law. And it deals specifically with the process here in Texas and even gives you cheat sheets for it. But you'll see it. There'll be a link at the top that says Academy. Once you're logged into the website, you can get access to any of those courses that are available to you. And that's one of them. Okay. But that being said, if you will recall, or maybe you don't, but last session, we had Kyle come out and announce in November or December that he had agreed to file the Texas Independence Referendum Act. It went over to the Ledge Council for drafting, and we weren't able to get a copy, like a fileable copy from Ledge Council where it could be filed until the tail end of January. And so, the other part of that, anybody who's kind of itchy about that, you also have to remember that, we got the legislative session starting in a couple weeks, and probably not even a couple of weeks at this point. But then you've got committees. I think that the House did not even appoint their committees until the third week of January, or like the last week of January. So, you're not going to, literally nothing will get done in the month of January other than bill filings. So that's where it is, right? So that's the process. But I would encourage people, if you haven't read the legislation, first and foremost, download the bill, right? Go to tnm.me, plug in your info. It'll send you an email. And that email will contain a copy of the bill, right? The draft that was submitted to Ledge Council. It will have a guide on how to effectively advocate for the Texas Independence Referendum Act. And I think there's another goodie attached to it as well. So that's where it is. When there's movement on it, you guys will be the first ones to know. I always think it's hilarious that people think, they ask questions about big stuff and go, what? It's like, look, if it's big, you won't ever have to ask, right? We don't keep things like that a secret. You got it. We keep you informed when things happen. Boom, there it is. We're going to let you know. Be sure you're signed up to our email list and you're registered on the site and all that. And then you will never have to ask about big things. I promise. Marilyn says, when will this happen? Will it be on the ballot soon? Pretty much what I said a moment ago. Just reference the thing that I mentioned just a moment ago, kind of where the process is, the way the bill reads, and you guys will see this. When the bill passes, the vote will be in November following the legislative session, right? Because that's when the constitutional amendment election is. And there was actually a coffee talk that I did that actually stepped through the entire bill. We may need to chop that out and just post it by itself so you guys can see it. But it was a few weeks back where I actually kind of took you through the bill process, what the Texas Independence Referendum Act actually does. So you'll want to check that out. But maybe let's make a note about that. Let's get that edited out. TEXIT bill. Yes, look at me. I'm all analog with a pen and paper. Wow. Okay, let's get down to, here we go. Hey, Kevin. Kevin says, thanks, Daniel M. Thanks to Daniel M for all his work and to all supporting TEXIT. And that's a super chat. No, Kevin, thank you very much. If it was just me, then it would be kind of weird. It'd be like Don Quixote tilting at windmills, but teamwork makes the dream work. And definitely thanks to everyone supporting TEXIT, and thank you to you for your super chat. It is much appreciated. Okay. Marcio Camillo says, I would like to know who would be the possible candidates for the presidency of the independent Texas Republic. Whoever wanted to run for office. Constitution lays out how our elections are to be held. I mean, if you're a Texan and you qualify, then you could probably run. I will go ahead and exclude one candidate right now, and that is me. Not it. Okay, this is going to be a fun one. Hugh, okay, this is not the one I'm talking about being fun. I hit this one because I had just answered it, but Hugh says, has the referendum bill been filed, or is it still stuck in Ledge Council? It's still in Ledge Council. We have not seen it returned back from Ledge Council yet. So as soon as we do that, then whatever happens. But I'm going to tell you, put pressure on your legislators right now. Put pressure on them right now. Make those calls, make those visits. I am speaking with legislators on a pretty regular basis at this point, and I'm going to tell you, they are not hearing from you enough. Okay. Piece of advice. Susan asks, what are we, Texas, going to do about bad politicians like Cornyn when we TEXIT? Well, here's the upside. Federal level politicians will be out of a job, right? That's an entire layer of representation that we will no longer need, and that's kind of where Cornyn is. But I think Cornyn's on his way out anyway. But your question about bad politicians is you have to be vigilant, right? Once you begin this process of TEXIT, it really gives more people a seat at the table in determining how we handle these sorts of things. But I will tell you, the short answer to this is there is actually a video on our YouTube channel. I think it may even be on the website. It may be on our Facebook page too. It was shot by Will Casey, and it talks about how will TEXIT cure electile dysfunction. And that is one of those things that it talks about. You have to understand the source of why politics is so screwed up to understand how TEXIT will actually fix it. And of course, one of those things is the moment that Texas becomes a self-governing independent nation, there are no more campaign contributions from outside of Texas. No golden lifelines out of California or New York or any of those other states for these politicians. So that's a major one. Just that one cure alone, that one thing alone, can change the entire political landscape here in Texas. But there's way more. I would suggest going to take a look at the video, or if you go to our website, I think the entire transcript of that is an article on tnm.me. So you'll want to go check that out. Thanks for your question, Susan. All right. I am not trying to neglect the folks who sent in via email. So let me roll this. Sherwin asks, can Texas be like Estonia? They started out poor and now richer than Russia by implementing Milton Friedman's free market reform plan. I would suggest that if you want to see a move toward a freer market, you start with TEXIT, because as we stand here crushed under 180,000 pages of federal laws, rules, and regulations, and we're experiencing on average a 2% compression of our GDP annually because of federal regulatory accumulation. You're going to be hard pressed to move toward a freer market while we are still tethered to the economic disaster that is Washington, D.C. But thank you for that. Okay, Lee asked a question. He says, can you explain the effects to the Texas oil and gas industry value post-TEXIT, since we don't have a currency yet, if the petrodollar is changed to either the Chinese yuan or Russian gold? I cannot. Again, that requires a prognostication that I can't give. But I will say this, is that it is a clear sign that somewhere in the very near future, sooner rather than later, the United States monetary system and the United States economy is going to be in probably much worse shape. The fact that you're seeing other countries begin to look at getting away from the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency, or what we talk about, the petrodollars, any of those things. Once those things get executed and become fully implemented, you're going to see some major shifting of the world economies, and the U.S. is going to be in serious trouble. I mean, it's already in serious trouble, right? But I think that what this concern is an impetus, a sense of urgency to get TEXIT done sooner rather than later, to begin this process of creating our own currency, right? To detach ourselves from horrible federal monetary policy and trade policy and economic decisions. I mean, it just, for me, I think if that was a major concern for me, then I would want to see TEXIT done sooner rather than later. Okay. Okay, man, you guys are coming with the questions tonight, and that does not break my heart, I'm telling you. Okay, here's a question from Tyler. Tyler sent one in here and one via email. I've got enough time to get to this one, so apologies. But Tyler says, do you think we should create a dedicated independence political party, much like Scotland did, and simply caucus with Republicans who align closer to independence? Oddly enough, I have discussed that issue at length many times in the past. If you go look on the news of the website at tnm.me, you will actually find an article that I wrote. I personally wrote it back when the Brexit Party made big gains in the European Parliament, just as pre-Brexit, right? So they had the vote, but they were still in that period to extract themselves. And the Brexit Party made major gains in seats in the European Parliament, which is done by proportional representation. And so naturally, everyone saw, Brexit Party had big wins in European Parliament. And they said, that means that we should go do that. And that told me two things. Number one, they don't know how contemporary European politics works, or the structure of the European Union or European elections. And number two, they've never read the Texas election code about what a pain in the butt it is to spin up a political party. So I wrote that article. I would suggest going to the website, finding it. That is a topic that I could dive off into and talk for a half hour about why it doesn't make sense and why our method and our strategy actually is better for what we're trying to do than forming a political party. So, but thanks for that question, Tyler. Oh, there we go. Okay, folks, it is almost time to wrap this bad boy up. And I can't do that. This is something I said I was going to do. So if you are a registered user on the TNM's website, you're a registered supporter, you have a login, and you go to this page, tnm.me/leaderboard, you're going to see something. And I figured since that we were only days away from the tail end of the year, I would take a moment to recognize some folks that have been out there connecting with supporters in a massive way. And so what I did was I went in and I changed what the leaderboard shows. And indeed, what we have here, my friends, is none other than the leaderboard for this year. And I can understand why you guys might be having a hard time seeing that, but I will correct that really quickly. Let's bring this up. We're going to do a little zoom for you here so you can see it. But here you go, my friends. Here are, of course, that leaderboard's great, right? But I wanted to show you the top outreach for this year. By connection of number of supporters. These are volunteers just like you that have gone out there and connected voters with the TNM. And leading the leaderboard for this year is none other than our Cypress local coordinator, Chris Powell, who connected us this year with a whopping 260 supporters. And you can look at that list. They're just impressive leaders. David Brunig from Bullard at 123. Mac Duncan, who he's working on he's been a local coordinator. He's been spinning up groups left and right. He's running our Groundbreakers teams. Rhonda Smith, who's there, she's been tearing it up out there as a district director and running the local group in Sugar Land. Lee Jacobson there in Abilene at 91. And the list goes on, but I'm gonna encourage you guys to go check that out. Our top outreach folks for the year. Thank you all so much for just going out there and going above and beyond, right? Just knocking it out of the park, connecting with voters. There are a lot, and it's the way that it always works. There are a lot that do some, and we're super appreciative of that. Look, if you connect with 1 or 2 or 10, just aim for 10. Connect 10 voters to the TNM. Give them give them your code, your QR code, or sign them up on the sheet and enter them in, however you get them in. But if you commit to 10, what you've done is you've grown the organization that much. You've been able to increase our outreach our ability to communicate with people, to get around these various blocks that they put in our way. And you've helped grow what is going to be the mass movement that makes TEXIT happen. So, look, a big thank you to everyone, no matter what you did. But I felt like I had to recognize some of our top performers who have done a phenomenal job. I obviously do not have time tonight to thank everyone. I normally do that when we do our wrap-up live stream, our very dedicated one, and we'll talk about and we'll single out some folks. But I didn't want to end Coffee Talk without doing that very thing right there. There are a ton of people to thank, and we'll get to that when we have a lot more time to discuss it. But, my friends, that is a wrap. Oh, you know what? This just reminded me. Somebody did ask. Okay, so for those of you who sent the message, right, or asked the question about this coffee mug, there you go. Isn't that nifty? Not available. Oh, what does it say? The Texas House of Representatives. I wonder where that came from. I'll never say. All right, let us close this thing out for the final time in 2022. And let me remind everyone, perhaps, if I can remember, you know what? Sometimes I'm just kind of rubbish at this, right? But let me remind you, if you have not already pledged your support, head over to tnm.me/vote. That's tnm.me/vote. And while you're there, become a member. Head over to tnm.me/join. Get in the game, become an official member of the TNM. And again, volunteer. Many hands make light work. tnm.me/volunteer. Join your local group at tnm.me/local groups. And, you know, if you are so inclined to go in there and rip it up on social media, become a member of our online response corps. Go to tnm.me/ORC. Yes, that spells orc. Head over to tnm.me/orc. All right. For the final time in 2022, I will leave you not with my words. Not with my words. I'm going to leave you with the words that I leave you with every single solitary time we're together, whether we're in person, whether we're virtual. They're words that may seem redundant, right? Like a broken record, like I'm beating a dead horse. But I appreciate all of you so much, and I appreciate what you're doing for the cause. I appreciate what you're doing as Texans to exercise your political will, to flex your political muscle, and move Texas one step closer to becoming a self-governing independent nation. And so these words are not for you so much, unless you need a kick and a little bit of a rededication. They are indeed for those out there of our countrymen who may be on the bubble. But I ask the question anyway. They're not my words, they're the words of Sam Houston, when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. My friends, I believe that 2023 is going to be that year. And the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone, and Happy New Year.
If you feel you've no real voice, and at the polls there's no good choice, and the best is a lesser evil, just who? And it is time for a real change. Instead of voting more of the same, only one solution restores the power to you. When Texan rights have been impaired, and it's gone on for many years, there's only one way left to correct it. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texas. July the 4th, we celebrate an exit of the United States from a British Empire that denied them representation. Yeah, and history repeats, they say. Britain's past became their fate when a Brexit vote restored Britain's status as a nation. When the Constitution is ignored, state sovereignty thrown overboard, and all attempts to restore it have been rejected. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texas. So high, no limits seem to apply. Is this the future we want for our Lone Star? What if tax dollars stayed in our state and Texans had the final say? Well, that's a future I'd be happy to vote for. You see corruption in D.C. or want a real tax decrease? There's only one solution left, you guessed it. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texas. Are you tired of a government that acts so reckless? You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texas. Do you love this Lone Star state? Have countless reasons why it's great. Perhaps you believe that God blessed it. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas. Go pledge your vote today for Texas. Sign up at Texas now.